all of a sudden this flash came through and I saw an entire scene and I was a Sasquatch.
Whoa.
Stacy Hernandez, an ancestral healing guide, multidimensional wayshower, and Lightbody facilitator. Welcome to the Aspen Roots podcast.
Thank you for having me here, dear friends.
Yes.
We are so stoked to have you. Stacy is from down the street, the Denver area of Colorado, and she has been part of our spiritual journey for quite some time. She has tons of amazing stories. We're going to hear stories about her ancestral healings, Sasquatch, and probably more. So I'm really looking forward to this episode. Why don't you start us off by telling us why you feel ancestral healing is important, and then please jump into your stories.
Yes. So, we can do all of the talk therapy. We can do all the energy work that we want. I feel like when we do the energy work, that accelerates us. I feel like the unseen is the thing that really gets us to that next level of awareness for ourselves and the next level of healing. And my mother has 9 siblings. I come from a bigger family on that side, and my father's side's smaller, but a family was everything always. And so I learned and I connected with my people all the time, like my aunties, my uncles, my grandparents, my cousins. And so I grew up with like an ancestral value. And I was taught by my mother that we talk to our people. So anytime something would go down, she's like, okay, I'll go talk to dad. Okay, I'll go talk to Aunt Marilyn. So I was raised with this spiritual foundation of always connecting with your ancestors. But I didn't necessarily know that. I thought it was normal. I didn't know it was like something that was a spiritual practice in a way. So in my journey of energy healing, I discovered my ancestors keep on coming in, but I would keep on just dismissing them. Especially like my mother's mother comes in all the time. And it was really just through that spiritual journey that I realized, oh my gosh. And so when I started working with my ancestors more like consciously, besides the whole like connecting and saying hi and then saying like, okay, help us out here, but when I would connect with them and ask them, why are you showing up? Like, why are you here? What do we need to do? And in the work I do with people, and I started connecting with their people because they just kept on coming in and showing up. Then I realized, whoa, wait a minute, they're here for a reason. And what I discovered through the ancestral healing, clearing out the energies of our people, so much of who we think we are is not even our stuff. It's not even us, So when I really started diving into that work and working with people on that, there was so much relief that happened from discovering like, wow, this behavior, this belief is not even my own. It's not even from my parents, but it goes back like 5 generations or whatever it is. That really started waking people up to new levels of themselves in ways they haven't been able to clear and do, because they're doing energy blocks and this and that, but they're getting to the deeper levels of it. And when you discover things that are not yours, that you're carrying, there's so much liberation and there's so much fun discovery than what is mine. Who am I really without this? So there's just a lot of growth that happens with that. And there's so much more room and space to be in that place of expansion and discovery. So I guess that's what ancestral healing is for me. Yeah.
Well, you present that really well. That sounds really
Yes.
powerful. And so, as basic as this sounds, I just want to make it clear that when Stacy's saying she's picking up, that it goes 5 generations, and when her ancestors come in, you're talking about psychically connecting in this way.
Energetically, psychically,
Energetically,
yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think that when we reincarnate, or if we reincarnate into the same family lineage, or each lifetime we then pick up all of, the lineage we decide to jump into?
That is such a great question. And through my working with people, here's what I've discovered. And I play with this all the time. So this is just from the work I've done and what they have showed me. So I believe that, yes, I do believe we are reincarnated. And I believe that we have a body elemental. So that means the intelligence of whatever physicality we have in each lifetime, that intelligence gets carried with us as we reincarnate every time. So even if we come into a new bloodline, so, okay, this bloodline, I have this ancestry right here, right now. But if I leave and I decide on a soul level I'm ready to come into another lifetime, I may come into a different biosuit with a whole new blood lineage, but I still have my people from this lifetime. So
Ah.
I see it as a big playground.
That's deep. Yeah. That's so
how,
multidimensional. Yeah.
and we, yes, that's the multidimensionality of this piece. And I believe some of us, especially some of us like starseeds or who have ancient lifetimes and go pretty far back, a lot of us have ancestry that's not even human.
Yeah,
So
I agree with that.
yeah. So I feel like we've been in forms that like a physicality forms, or we've incarnated into experiences that we may have been a reptilian, or we may have been a Sasquatch, or we may have been a Octurian, or what, Andromedan, whatever it is. And the people I work with tend to have very long, let's say, life streams. Life streams are like the existences of all of our incarnations. It's like a stream of all our incarnations.
And so you're tracking all of that through time and space.
Yes.
Wow,
So-
that's cool.
So my work is all over the place. There's always a lot happening, and it's a lot of me talking through, okay, and then this, and then it pops into the next thing. And even if, let's say I'm doing ancestral work, often what happens is then we pop out of your lineage, let's say from this lifetime lineage, and then we may pop into past lives, and then all your lineage is from your past lives. So there may be even things there. That's why I say there may be some other layers underneath that we're just getting to one piece of it, but there may be layers underneath.
Wow. I mean, when I try to put this all in my mind, it's massive. There's so
It
much
is.
to all this.
Yeah.
So if
It
you're
is.
somebody who's thinking like, oh, when I meditate, I can't tap into anything like that, then, that's where you come in to help people explore this for themselves if they have trouble doing it themselves.
Yes. And I would say even when I'm doing like my own meditations, I'll get glimpses, I'll get pieces. I need people too. And when I'm connecting with someone, it's like a different switch turns on. Right. And I bet with your work too, is a different switch comes on and then the downloads just come in. It's like the space you're holding at the time for someone else allows for more awareness to happen.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I want to add into I think this empowers people so much because we all see like our parents and some of the things we do that are similar to them.
Yeah.
It's like if we really bring attention to that, how can we change our experience to be different from the trauma we experienced as a child because of our parents' unconscious actions? And it goes down the line, like you're saying. And so if we can bring healing in this time and space, it's just so powerful because I feel like it heals down the line as well. Do you agree with that?
100%. And even if, let's say, the ancestor passed, they're getting liberated on a soul level too. And then the future generations are getting liberated, and then they get to incarnate and not even have to deal with the same baggage that we had to deal with. I mean, it's some powerful work. But I love how you brought in that multidimensionality piece, because there's so much to it that the ancestors, if we understand them as a bigger picture, that there's a lot to it. So I could be carrying a trauma way back from, let's say, an Orion lifetime I had, but it's playing out in my lifetime, but it was from my people from that Orion lifetime. So there's so much. And I mean, it's some of the stories, especially when I tell you the Sasquatch story, you'll get a better understanding of what that is, in terms of that.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a good segue. Let's jump into your first story here.
So I'll go into a human story and then I'll go into the Sasquatch story. So a couple months ago, I was driving my husband to the airport to drop him off early morning, like 4 or 5 in the morning. And we all know DIA is not necessarily the funnest place to drive the Denver airport. I think I was like almost passing. No, it wasn't. No, I was dropping him off. And it was kind of like a weird energy starting to come in. I passed Lucifer, the energy, dropped him off. And that's the whole thing, for Denver people and for us Coloradans.
Wait. You have to explain that. The Lucifer.
So if you don't know, oh yeah, go ahead. You do it.
Okay. There is a statue of a blue horse with red eyes by the Denver International Airport as you enter. And it's very eerie. So that's what Stacy is referring to as Lucifer.
And it's so funny. I was at the gym this morning and someone had a Lucifer sticker on their water bottle. It was the funniest thing today. It was just, anyways.
Must be a local.
Yes, definitely. So I dropped him off, and we were going through some really hard times at the time, just hard times. And it was just so much was happening, and it was personal relationship wise connection. I've been married to my husband for a very long time. We were just like going through our own stuff, and my kids, they were going through their stuff. We were going through like financial stuff, like all this stuff was happening. And I dropped them off and I realized, oh, I forgot my phone. So I can't listen to a podcast or I can't listen to music, whatever. But I noticed and I recognized I didn't have my phone. And then all of a sudden something shifted. Like I felt like I drove through a veil. Like I watched this like clouded wall, and I was driving the whole time. Okay. So all this is happening while driving. So this clouded wall, and I drove through it right after dropping them off. So you go down the ramp after the drop off, and then I went right into it after I realized, oh, I don't have my phone. Okay, I'll just connect. I'll just like be. And then I drove into this veil, and all of a sudden my grandmother came in. And this is my mother's mother. And she sat right down next to me in the car. And I'll either see them holographically, or there's a strong knowing that they're there. So for her, I kind of saw like an outline.
When you say see, and no, that's not with your mind's eye. You're seeing them with your physical eyes. Like
Yeah, I'll see like more of a holographic. Often it's mind's eye. Okay. So often it's more energetic or a knowing, a strong knowing. I know my grandma's here. This was a little bit more of a like a misty hologram type stuff. I knew she was right there. It felt more physical than usual. Okay.
Cool.
But I get a lot of visuals, but they're mind's eye visuals. So anyway, so she sat down next to me and I just started crying and crying and crying. Then all of a sudden, my father's mother sat in the back seat, and then their mother sat next to them. So it was like this whole car full of grandmothers. And it was like they came in right at a time where I had the thought about my phone. And then I'm like, there was like a release in me, like, that kind of release where you're just like, you've been holding it all together for so long. And then that kind of release.
Yeah.
And then I saw her, and then I just started bawling my eyes out. And she looked at me and she said, everything's going to be okay, right? And something inside of me, like we know that people say that all the time, right? Everything's going to be good. Everything all works out. But there was an energy that she was holding for me when she looked at me. And it was so clear that like all of the dread that I was about to face, that I was driving into, because I had to go home and do the list and do all the things and then worry and all that. It was like she came in and looked at me, and she was doing it in her own language. And like if you've had a grandmother who had grandmother language, oh my dear, and like that kind of that kind of language. And when she said that, it was like something lifted off of me very quickly, and it was like the blindfolds came off, and I realized, yes. And then the grandmothers in the back, then they started sharing more advice. Like, here's how to approach it. Like, like this is just an illusion. Remember, money's an illusion, like those sort of things. So what happened was my grandmother started kind of giving advice and explaining that money is just an illusion. So I would say one of my shadow sides is worry. I worry a lot, and I can get very wrapped up in my head. And they were really breaking down the understanding of that money is just an illusion. And what I'm holding on to is I'm going to call it the power over dynamic illusion around it. So we know money is an energy, right? And she went into this worthiness, like this worthiness frequency came through my belly, where then I started to realize, whoa, this is not about the money. It's about my value. Like I don't even value myself, right? That piece came very forward when they were here, and it's like when downloads come into you, like these thoughts come into you, these epiphanies, they kept on just like downloading awarenesses to me and telling me, like, okay, here's how we can support you through this. And I got a bigger understanding of the money traumas of my family. They brought that forward too. And knowing like real stories around decisions they made, choices they made, struggles they had, all of that. And I believe that's also why the grandmothers came forward, was to really make it known, like, first of all, this is a cycle. This is another pattern that's happening. So that really brought me then to another level of, okay, how can I break this cycle? And I'm holding onto an illusion behind it because it has to do with my own, it's coming from within, right? Because I can be aligned with money and know it's all, whatever, it's an illusion or not, it doesn't matter. It's how I feel about it. So that was what happened. And this literally happened for 20 minutes on my drive home. And then they left.
So it's one thing to notice that they're there and to also like get some ideas downloaded, but you're having a deep enough connection with them that you're getting full stories with details about how they, interacted with
Yeah, I
money.
was getting like full understandings. Yes. The stories were glimpses.
Okay.
And then these glimpses, and I had to ask my mom about a couple of things, like, oh,
Okay.
did Grandpa do this? And she's like, yeah, he did that, that sort of thing. So,
Gotcha.
certain understandings came through from the glimpses of things that they gave me. Yeah, but they were stories. I mean, they were just like, just bits of it.
Okay, cool.
That's
Yeah.
what I was going to ask. Like, were you able to verify any of the information too? So it sounds like you were, which makes it very powerful.
Yes. That was the fun thing of being able to go back to, especially my mom, and be like, hey, how was Grandpa with money? What happened? Blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, a lot came forward.
So how long ago did that story take place?
So that was, gosh, I want to say in the spring. So maybe April.
Okay, so it hasn't been too much time. I was going to ask you if you can look back now and see what shifted since then.
I definitely don't have the fear I used to have around money, but one of the big things that really came forward is it accelerated my connection to the ancestors for myself, but especially for my clients. They come in quicker, they come in easier. I get a clear understanding of why they're here and what needs to get cleaned up. So it was a lot of that for me. So it feels like it was me having to trust myself in what I was experiencing or what I see. It was a lot
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
they gave me some understandings about whatever my struggles, but it felt like that was so minimal compared to, it was really like an opening happened within me,
Wow.
and really like living more heart-centered. And this is what that looks like for me.
Very
Awesome.
cool. And
You know.
I love too that they brought forth like their human experience and honoring your human experience and how hard that can be. Also, like in your moment of need, they were like, hey, we understand that they were human too and they've walked through some hard things as well. And also the illusion of money. It's a very human struggle too. So I just love how they brought forth their stories to help you heal.
Yeah. It was beautiful. Like it felt like a big grandma hug with what they were bringing forward. And again, the money thing, like that part was such a small part of it compared to like, trust yourself, love yourself, have faith, know that this is okay. It was a lot of that,
Okay.
it was a lot of that. So it was nice that there was these other little, like, as you said, like the 3D real story thing and all that. But the bigger piece I got out of it was like an opening for myself, and to believe in myself and trust the work that I'm doing. Cause it's kind of out there sometimes, and I got to know that's just my gift and what I'm bringing forward.
Totally. Yeah.
The cool thing was though, that I was totally taken care of while I was driving, because like, that's a big distraction. in a
Right.
way. And I literally was on I was on highways. You know what I mean? I wasn't just like on city streets trying to, well, that would be worse, I think. But I was driving straight, I guess. But it was this just like, it didn't matter. Like I knew everything was okay. The cars just kind of moved out of the way. I just, I was able to be in this like more trance-like state. And maybe that's bad to say and don't do it at home.
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
Thing, but
Yeah.
I want to jump in because that's how I used to feel my mom. Like one of the key ways she would come in, this is early on and she still does, and now my grandparents do, is in the car. I think we're like in Hara, like the level of intentionality, and we're very like focused. I don't know if that's it, but like something about it is prone to our ancestors coming in, because I have the same experience.
wow. Yeah, maybe it's because we're open, right? We're not distracted. We're just focused on driving. I mean, that would be the thing we'd be focusing on, but
Or it's
yeah.
like cleaning, or like, people say they get downloads when they're
Yeah.
cleaning. It's like your mind is occupied. So your mind has a job, it's driving. It's not going to interrupt everything else that's about to happen.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
it. That's it. That
Yeah.
is it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. So, should I talk about the Sasquatch?
Yeah. So let's make this graspable to a wider audience, because most
Okay.
people who they think of Sasquatch are thinking, oh, it's that made up creature that people want to argue whether it's been here or is here. and it's pretty much just a tourist attraction when I go on vacation with my family.
Yes. And I want to say too, sometimes on the internet, the giants of old that they uncover
Yes.
these skeletons, there's also that distinction too. Are we talking about the giants or are we talking about a completely different race?
Yeah. So it depends on what giants you're talking about. Because I believe that there are some original titans of the planet, some of the original creators of our race and the original creators of our planet, and part of them are the Sasquatch. So we have Sasquatch DNA. This is what I believe. And giants, Hyperboreans, are also giants, and they walked our planet in ancient times. And so they are giants. And then we also have our Sasquatch families that are bigger, so it depends. I believe there's more than one when we're talking about that. And
Okay.
with the Sasquatch, again, they are elemental beings. So you can absolutely find them out in, where we hear people go out in the woods or whatever, and you hear stories. I also believe they come from other planets as well. They've taken me to a planet, a Sasquatch planet, and that was I got to see myself, a lifetime of myself at this purple planet where it was a Sasquatch planet. So there's various types, and some are from this planet and some are not. That's how I see them, and I work with them. They are directly related to us and to our race. And so they are family. They are our ancestors too. And so, yeah, so that's my experience of them. They're very much connected to the elemental realm. So often you'll see when we see ravens, ravens communicate with them and they communicate with us. The ravens are kind of a good kind of, what is that? The middle
Intermediary.
Yes, that's the word. And also they'll hop in and out of these like light portals, so they can just jump in, they can show their form, they can jump back out, and then so they're multidimensional. They just travel and traverse through all different levels of awareness.
That I was going to ask you that. Are we talking interdimensional or physical? And it sounds like it's both.
Both.
And so that's why people have such a hard time tracking them in the physical, because they can just disappear.
They like literally jump through like portals, like light, like it's like maybe like a square of light or like a ball of light, and they just jump through and they can come in and out. And they leave lots of wonderful gifts. My colleague Laurel is a Sasquatch communicator and an elemental realm communicator, and maybe have her on the show and she can tell you amazing, amazing, amazing stories, all incredible, powerful stories around the Fey realm, the Sasquatch. And so I've learned a lot through her too. And
Cool.
she's through Lightbody Academy as well. But so this is even before I even knew Laurel. So I didn't know a lot about, I just would see them, but I would see them again, mind's eye, more on an energetic level. And I would connect with them that way. But the story is kind of crazy what happened. So this was, gosh, I want to say maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago. And I was in Crestone. So I was in a kind of a sacred space in Colorado. And me and a group of people, we were walking in the woods and hiking, and there was a creek along the way, and we were just all like really intentionally walking, holding our hearts big, and we were just walking. And all of a sudden I fell to the ground and I started convulsing. There was nothing wrong with me. Okay. I just started convulsing and I started yelling and screaming. So imagine being on a hiking trail and then a woman is laying on the ground screaming. All of a sudden, this flash came through and I saw an entire scene. And the entire scene was, I saw myself strapped down to like a table, and I saw all of my people strapped down to a table, and I was a Sasquatch.
Whoa.
So it was like little ones, big ones. And I was like looking around. I just kept on looking around and seeing. And I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to help my people. I got to save my people.
Wow.
And the downloads that came through was this actually was happening in Colorado. That they were are places in the mountains, especially that area is closer to the springs, and we know there's a lot of government stuff. We know a lot of military stuff in Colorado. And I believe that the scene I actually saw was a scene of me being experimented on with me and my people, and it really felt like in the mountains of Colorado. And, you know,
Wow.
Would we
yeah,
call that a past life, or is this like interdimensionally happening at the same time?
that's a great question because I thought originally it was a past life because I didn't understand the like kind of multidimensionality of things like I do now, just from all the work I've done with people and I've learned a lot through them.
Hmm.
So, but this definitely feels like a timeline. It was like more of it was a different timeline of mine because it
Okay.
Mhm.
doesn't feel ancient. It felt like real on this planet in Colorado, maybe part of the reason why I was called to live here. And it was so real. Just like if you were watching X-Men on the TV and you saw Wolverine getting experimented on. It was that same kind of like energy. I mean, it was the whole scene. And I was just bawling and bawling and bawling, and my body kept on shaking and shaking. I mean, it literally, I was just walking and it fell. And then all of a sudden this came up. And some of the women there were helping me through it and guiding me through and talking me through and telling me like how to support me through this because I didn't think I was getting out.
Mm.
I didn't think I was getting out. And what happened after that, what came through was the energy, the trauma behind it was able to come out.
Ah, okay.
So
Wow.
so it
Okay.
was this like torture. Like there was a tortured energy that was in me that kept me very closed off and not like trusting. Like I maintained an inner circle and I didn't really trust anyone outside of it, you know,
Hmm.
but that
Mhm.
really kind of that shifted a level of trust for me and opens that up for me to then really see like, and I got to see the perpetrators and they were human. I
Okay.
got to the love I had for my people was so strong, and I got to see them get liberated too. So what happened on a soul level, we all just we're not holding the scene with trauma anymore. So I can go back to the scene and look at it and see myself and laying there, but I'm not holding a trauma anymore.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And I
Hey,
liberated their souls too. Like we all got liberated from that scene, even the perpetrators, because they are holding that energy.
Hmm.
So,
That's interesting. Even the perpetrators.
yeah, I
yes.
had to stop and think about that because at first I was like, well, it sounds like you just healed your soul, but now, you healed it for everybody, but the perpetrators too. I got to
Yes.
think about that one. So did they,
Yeah.
like, were they there? Did they want to be liberated? Did
Some
they?
do. Yeah, when you
Okay.
go into a like an experience like that, whether it's like a scene of a lifetime or a past life or a timeline, kind of scene, what I'm always doing is I'm checking to see like, okay, is everyone wanting to be liberated? Does everyone have to be liberated? Is it just me? Often it's everyone because everyone holds an energy. So
Hmm.
whether you're a perpetrator and now in this lifetime you hold a victim mentality, right? But you're still holding on to this energy and it could be guilt or shame because maybe the person had guilt about it or shame, or maybe they secretly still have this energy of wanting to cause harm.
Hmm.
You don't know. But when you're asking these souls, like, are you ready to be liberated on that level, or do you want to stay with it? Because you can just hold your free will and choose to stay in that energy.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So often though, everyone wants to be liberated because it's hard to liberate yourself if everyone is not liberated in that experience. But I mean, you absolutely can, but they have to make a choice,
Hmm.
a conscious choice of wanting to hold on to the trauma.
That makes
Wow.
sense. That's really, really powerful. Oh my goodness. I think,
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense to me though, because probably the perpetrators were often being told what to do
Mhm.
by a higher power that wasn't doing the dirty work, so to say.
Yes.
And so there's a certain level of guilt, and they had to experience the trauma themselves, walk through it,
Yeah.
and they were causing the harm. So I do think that's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So how did that end for you? You were on the ground for how long, and then you just kind of came out of it, and you're like, "Holy shit, that was crazy."
Yes. I don't even know how long it was, but the people I was with, they came running and sat with me and helped clear some energy, and my awarenesses came through. And then all of a sudden, those energies got cleared, and I wasn't holding the trauma anymore. And I was able to get up, and we kept on walking.
All right. Wow. Just another day in the woods.
And did anyone else experience or tap into that psychically as you were walking through it?
Once I fell, two other people who were more like, let's say, the teachers or the facilitators of like, because we were there for a workshop, they came over and they talked to me through. Okay, so what do you see? What's going on? What is this? And then I was able to, now I can just do it on my own. But then back then it was like, I was so altered. I was so in terror, at that time, that it was so hard. And then they're like, okay, what scene do you see? And then we were able to put together, okay, these are humans experimenting on you and your people. Okay, this is Colorado. This looks like it was from over here, close to the springs. I mean, crazy stuff like that. Like I didn't know necessarily. So they helped me put together pieces of what was happening. Yeah.
Wow, what
Gotcha.
a perfect group to be with.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
happening.
That one,
Yeah.
I'll never forget that experience. That was just nuts what happened with that. But it just shows, like, again, when you're expanding your multidimensional lens, you don't know what you're going to find and what you're going to see. And that there was something inside of me that needed to get healed. And it wasn't from something my dad said or something my mom said. It was, you know what I mean? It was something that was
Right.
from a very different level of awareness that had to come through to release something within me.
Wow, it's
Yeah.
tremendous how connected all this gets when you really tap
Yeah.
into it. That's wild.
Exactly. And
Yes.
so many layers of it. I mean, to think that we've been incarnated as a human and then other beings possibly. And there's so much, so much.
Yeah,
There's
we
so
didn't even
much.
dive down the rabbit hole of timelines. We just kind of mentioned that. It's a whole nother one. So
Yeah. Yeah. And those are
Yeah.
they're coming forward for a lot of people right now. Of people being able to understand, like, okay, this didn't happen a long time ago. This didn't happen in a past life. I definitely felt like it was newer, but it's not in this experience of like my life experience now. And then you can kind of see maybe where you jumped into a different timeline or where you were living out a different timeline. I mean, it's not so how vast this is. The awarenesses can get. And we
Yeah.
get limited to, like, let's say 9 dimensions or whatever. We're just so vast. So what I'm holding in my heart is what's possible. What are the potentials out there and what is possible, because it's so beyond everything what I know. And if my ego's involved, then I know I'm in limitation. Right? Because if I'm in my
Yeah.
heart, then I just expand and the awarenesses come forward. But when my brain tries to interpret it, then I'm kind of putting it into structure, or I'm putting it into something. So, so that's where the trees are really helping me to go back into the heart of it. And, like, you don't need to understand it. You don't need to interpret it. Because eventually later the interpretation comes in, after all those experiences happen a lot of times, so.
I just wanted to highlight your comment about the trees because I don't remember if we hit record at the time we were talking about the trees before we started, the podcast show here. But Stacy's been working with trees, tree therapy, and gaining lots of direct wisdom from them, which is quite profound. And I'm curious, is it a specific species of trees, or are you working with multiple?
Yeah. So I'm working with multiple. It's where whoever I'm called to go to. And sometimes I'll just do the trees in front of my house, especially if, let's say, I have less time. And the trees in front of my house, there's a lot of maples. So I'll work with them. But where I live, there's a lot of old trees, like there's a couple old birch trees. There's a couple of old oaks, and there's some evergreens, which are just so lovely. I want to work with an aspen. I've never connected with an aspen before. I'm just curious about the flavor of the aspen, but it doesn't matter. And they all have their own flavors. And when I connect, it starts off being a very physical connection. And I ask, are you okay with me sitting with you? And sometimes it takes them a while, especially the city trees. Oof. Sometimes I've had to build, like, multiple times visiting relationship to get them to open.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you mean by the city trees?
So I live in the city, and so the
okay.
trees here and the lack of, like, connection with the human I mean, I guess in the wilderness you're not getting human connection, but it's different. When you're out in the wilderness, your
Yeah.
heart is open, right? Like, you're just
Yeah.
in the wilderness, and so, like, you just naturally just start energetically connecting with all of nature in a different way. But in the city, it's sad, especially because if I walk down this really busy road by my house, those trees, they're just, like, dismissed. They're not looked at. They're not connected to. So now I walk and I say hi, and I try to connect. And they have a whole root network, and they communicate with each other underground. And it's fascinating because I'll maybe saying hi to one, but one across the street or down the way knows, and then feels the same level of joy because of it. And so I literally just sit under a tree. And I sit there and I lean against it. Sometimes I'll hug, but sometimes I'll place my hand. I just lean against it. And that's how I go in, and I feel something in my body. Sometimes it's like, okay, it's in my head. Something in my head is being, worked on or connected to, or they'll take me right into my heart or somewhere. But each one has such a different frequency, and different things are coming forward from it. And I was sharing, that story around how with my tree therapy, I call it tree therapy because, it
Perfect
is.
name.
Yeah.
Oh, but one of the times the tree pulled me into the trunk and then showed me exactly what I need to do with my migraines right now, and just showed me, okay, you need oxygen, you need to do this, you got to do this. So it was just amazing because I don't think I would have gotten there if I was just meditating on my couch or wherever, like I don't think I would have gotten there in that same way because it was a co-creative connection that happens. And they were so excited to bring things forward. And I'm telling you, I'm having epiphany after epiphany just sitting. And sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 30 minutes. It's just whatever I'm called to and maybe what my time, frame is. So,
That's
Super
yeah.
awesome.
cool.
So this is bringing me back to one of the first spiritual books I ever read. It was 25 years ago, something. I think might have been called Soul Companion. It was a bunch of short stories. And then one of them was a tree communicator. And I found the story so fascinating because this person said that each species holds different knowledge of wisdom. And
Mhm.
she went up to one species, and I'm making up the details and the names of the species here because I don't remember. But let's say she went up to the aspen trees, and the aspen trees are like, they told her, "You're not ready to converse with us yet. Please go talk to the pine trees, learn from the pine trees, and then you'll be ready." And so that's what she had to do. I found those details fascinating.
Wow.
So I'm highly
Wow.
motivated after this conversation to go out,
Yes.
connect with our aspen trees here.
I know
Yes.
they feel like they're fun. I feel like they would have fun energy. I don't know. When I tune into them, they just feel fun, like high
Sweet.
energy. So,
I'll let you know what
yeah.
I pick up. I'm
Yeah,
definitely going to
please
do it.
do.
Yeah.
Please do. Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that said, let's move on into our soulful send off. And I want to open my heart here, Stacy, and just tell you that you have been a cornerstone on my spiritual
Oh.
journey. We started working, we don't work together often, but I know
Yeah.
I can always call on you.
Hmm.
And the information you
Absolutely.
give me is always on point, delivered with an open heart and profound, and just leads me into cascading awarenesses about myself that I can take forward and continue to work with. And I'm so grateful that you were willing to show up on our podcast and share your stories with us. And we'll be studying with you at the Lightbody Academy next month. So
Woo.
looking forward to that. But yes,
Yes.
thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you. I love you both so much. And I feel so grateful and honored that you invited me.
Oh, we
Love
love
you
you
too.
Yeah.
too. Thank you for
Yeah.
being here. And I want to reflect back to you. Wow, I feel like we've just scratched the surface. I feel like this is just the intro. I want to, know what you know and pick your brain and hear more stories. Just multidimensional is the word that comes to me.
Hmm.
And now I know why you use that word. It's so deep
Yeah.
and so intertwined, and freeing ourselves on all these different levels, not just like what you said. This was something my parents said to me and it hurt me, but we're
Hmm.
so multidimensional, and healing ourselves multidimensionally, I feel, is so important. So the work you do is
Yeah.
so important. And thank you for doing it and for being a resource for that, because a lot of times we know these things too, but we're like, how do we get help with that? Who do I see for that? So it's good that people have someone they can go to who they trust.
Wow. Cool. Well, thanks.
Visit us at aspenroots.love.